There is a conversation that has been avoided far too long, and the longer it has been avoided, the more dangerous that silence has become. If housing instability is increasing across this country, and if we have already established that community is the missing link, then where's the church? The church cannot remain on the sidelines of this issue. They can't stay on as observers, as critics, and not as occasional volunteers, but as leaders. Welcome to Live for Free, where we transform lives through real estate. And this is our 5th episode of our 6-part series on what we must do to prevent a housing collapse. And today, we're talking specifically about the church in housing and why silence is no longer an option. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, for most of history, we've known the church to be completely involved in community. It was a point in time when church was community. I remember growing up as a little girl where we were at the church and we would go up and down the streets, basically talking to the people in their homes, finding out what their needs were. We had outreach. We had revival. We had so many ways in which we engaged as the church. So when people were displaced, you had the church responding. When families struggled, the church intervened. And when systems failed, the church filled the gap. And housing was not viewed as a political issue. It was viewed as a human one. So somewhere along the way, that understanding shifted. And I don't believe it shifted in the last few years since COVID. It has shifted even longer than that. So as housing became more institutionalized, responsibility slowly moved away from community and into systems. So now you've got government programs that have expanded. You've got nonprofits professionalized, and you've got compliance that has increased. And the church stepped back. So as you think about those dynamics and how the government, the church, and community, and the state, we didn't talk about the state yet, but as we talk about the interaction that they should have and how it should be moving forward, the church clearly has shifted. And I don't believe that it's because the church has stopped caring. I don't believe that. But because the issue began to feel complex and regulated and risky, I believe that those are some of the sources as to why it has shifted. So compassion became outsourced. How is that? And housing became someone else's problem. But here is the reality that we need to face, is that when housing collapses, the church is already involved, and it just has not stopped. They just have stopped planning for it. And that's what my plea is to churches today, is that we need to step in and start planning for what is going to happen. People show up asking for help. I get phone calls all the time at my nonprofit and in my mother's ministry, people looking for help. Families are at a point where they are in crisis, and they come to us in crisis. So we've got congregations that are stretched right now because there's nothing available. They're trying to meet a need that they're not prepared to handle right now. And the consequences arrive whether the church intended to engage or not. And silence does not shield the church from responsibility. It only removes the preparation. So we have a moment in time to turn this around in our churches and become more aware of how we can step up in helping provide solutions. So this moment is not asking the church to become a housing authority. What it is asking the church to do is reclaim its role as a stabilizing force, because the church has something that no system can replicate, and that's proximity. They have proximity to the needs that people have. They have the trust. Many people trust the church, at least most churches. I know that some of that trust has degraded over the years because of some other things, but the trust is still there. And there's consistency. There's a rhythm that the church still can do. So housing stability does not come from placement alone. It actually comes from relationship. And as we can focus on that, because churches can provide that, that is an opportunity that we can use to sort of shift where we are right now. Because people do not stabilize because a form was approved. They actually stabilize because someone stayed. And we need to be able to get ahead of that. Systems are transactional by design, but the church, it's relational by calling. And that's the distinction that matters. When someone begins to slip and a system notices that something is happening, then the community can step in immediately to deal with that. And those are things that we need to consider as we look at stepping in before this housing collapse happens. And when someone struggles emotionally, spiritually, or relationally, a program might not be able to catch that, but guess what? A church can, especially if they're coming regularly to the church, not just for help, but also for fellowship. And this is why removing the church from housing was never sustainable. And that's what we need to correct. And it is why simply increasing government funding will never solve this problem alone. The church needs to be able to step in and play a part, because they hold the assets that are deeply underutilized in this moment. Because churches have land, churches have buildings, churches have volunteers, and they have that intergenerational wisdom that is necessary to help someone who's struggling, and they have the networks. Imagine a church of even 100 people. You've got 100 people there ready to be able to be of service to an individual who is in need. But one thing I think that is one of the most important assets that the church has, it has continuity. People experiencing housing instability often experience constant disruption, where they have new caseworkers working with them, they're being put in new programs, there's new rules, all of those things apply. So the church offers something that's different. And I want to plead to our church leaders to bring that in, because what you bring is that familiarity that is needed. You bring that presence, and you bring the time. So when you can provide that to individuals who are already dealing with instability in their housing, we can be able to shift this and turn it around. And this does not require the church to really do anything other than be involved in the process. And it requires you to do something. So you've heard me say that doing nothing is still doing something, right? So we don't want your inaction to be the decision. We want you stepping up and playing a part in creating solutions. Partnering with existing housing operators, you can host transitional housing programs. You can provide supportive services like mentoring or life skills or community integration. You can do so much with what you have as a resource. All we want is for you to be engaged in the process. as the leaders in the community to be able to offer up services like that. And this is not about charity, it's about stewardship. So when you can respond in a way that will prevent these things from happening, that's what we're looking for. Because if we were talking about charity, we're simply talking about you responding to an emergency. But we want more than that. Stewardship is what builds the systems that prevent them. And the early church understood this. And that's where we need to get back to. They did not ask whether housing was within their scope. They asked how they could meet the need in front of them. And that response shaped communities for generations. And I'm excited about us getting back to that place as the church playing a role in creating housing stability. I want the church to come up to a whole nother level, because I'm sure that today the church is being asked to do that right now, to step in like the old church used to be, not by policy and not by government, but by reality. And I truly believe we can step to those places where we can make a difference. So if you are hearing my voice now, go ahead and put some comments in the comment section below, so that if you've got questions about how you can engage as your church participating in solving this solution, or being a part of the solution of this housing crisis, then go ahead and reach out to me. You can reach out to me in a comment. You can reach out to me in our school community. I've got a school community that's growing just by leaps and bounds of purpose-driven leaders who want to be able to create successful transitional housing programs. And if that's you, if you're a church that wants to do that even more, come to us, join us at tonyschool.com. That's TONISKOOL.com, so that you can be a part of the solution and creating some sustainable programs that will impact the people in your community. Because guess what? Your silence is a decision. You are making a decision simply by saying nothing. So I want to see you stepping forward and making a difference in the lives of the people in your community. And I look forward to seeing you in our school community. See you there.